Broadcasting across the nation, on your radio, and on Current TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
You got it. And yes, there is a voice crying for help on that 911 tape out of Sanford, Florida, the night of February 26th. Voice experts over the weekend say, yeah, that voice could no way be George Zimmerman. It must be the voice of young Trayvon Martin. Hello, everybody. It is Monday, April 2nd. Great to see you today. This is the Full Court Press from our nation's capital, our little radio factory, TV factory, and book factory located right here on Capitol Hill, bringing you the latest stories of the day and taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS. You want to weigh in on the issues, that's your chance to do so. Invite your calls. Good to see you today, and good to welcome to our radio studio, TV studio, radio. I got to get used to it. That is both now. Good friend Eric Burns, who is the co-founder of Bullfight Strategies, a regular here on the Full Court Press. Hello, Eric.
Hey, Bill, thanks for having me back.
Good to see you. You're looking good.
Thank you.
And our regular team members, of course, Peter Ogburn.
We're here, but we're nowhere near as handsome as Mr. Burns.
Oh, Peter Ogburn.
There it is.
Thanks for coming in, Eric.
Dan Henning. And Cyprian Bolding, our videographer there, the man behind the camera. And there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. I don't know. Did you play the Mega Millions?
I did not. I
cheapskate.
I know. Well, you know, look, when the lottery gets really, really, really big, your chances of winning the lottery go down astronomically.
Well, you're too damn smart. That's the only time that I buy tickets when it gets that big. So,
yeah, you're one of those people that they count on for that stuff.
But think about it. If you're like the little 7-Eleven, right, or this Moto Mart in Red Bull, Illinois, right, they get the place where they sell that you get 1% of the prize up to $500,000. They get the whole enchilada. And the manager of that store, she's one happy camper today.
Sure.
Here she is.
My God! Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited. So very happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be happy. Maybe I should open a store. That's, I think, the way to do this.
500,000.
Yeah,
I'm
really.
sure that's their take like for a year, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Easy.
I take a cool $500,000.
Yeah,
you know?
I'd be down with that.
I would have
Forget this politics business. Let's open up a store and sell lottery tickets.
$213 million too, right?
Yeah, but you guys could sell lottery tickets out here off the show.
We could do that. I like that idea.
Yeah,
We could set up as a vendor.
Yeah, why not?
Set up a little vendor here. I'm not sure that would work. But we got a different kind of a contest that we're launching today.
Okay.
Actually, with your help, Eric, you and Carl
indeed.
Frisch, and that is what we're calling our virtual book party. I love this idea. It's all new. I mean, talk about online.
Yeah.
Book parties. You don't have to get dressed up and go out and all that kind of stuff anymore. You just do it all online. Go to BillPressShow.com/book party. And we're inviting people to, this is all about, of course, my new book, The Obama Hate Machine.
Fantastic book.
To talk to their friends and family and say, hey, here's a great book. It's really timely, all about the attacks on President Obama, who's behind them, Koch brothers.
Yep.
You ought to get this book. And for those people who sell a certain number of books, they can either win like golf shirts or baseball caps, bumper stickers, T-shirts, you name it. And the big winners will get invited for trip to Washington, D.C.
That's right.
Airfare, hotel, come to Washington, D.C., come to the studio, see a live broadcast of the Full Court Press, and then we go out to breakfast at Ted's Bulletin right down the street, which is where President Obama took his staff for lunch a couple of months ago with all of the Bill Press team.
No,
you can come along.
All right.
Isn't that great?
Invitation accepted. I will. I will. And I'll tell you what's great about this book. What I love about it is I'm buying it for all my friends and my family who are Republicans, who really need to understand what's going on in this election cycle, what's driving it. And you get in these arguments and you can't get anywhere. Just say, hey, you know what? Read this book by Bill Press. Read The Obama Hate Machine. Understand what the forces are that are driving this election cycle. That's what I think is so important about this book.
Yeah, so you can buy it. You can buy it for your enemies as well.
Buy it for your enemies and your friends.
So Eric Burns is with us. Katie Paris from Media Matters for America is going to be joining us just a little bit later as well. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
On this Monday, other headlines making news. Katie Couric returned to morning television this morning, co-hosting Good Morning America on ABC for the week. But many eyes are on her former network where she hosted the Today Show for 15 years. They've brought in Sarah Palin to co-host that program tomorrow morning. The Huffington Post reports she'll comment on the day's news through the first hour as a sidekick and then host some segments in the second hour of the broadcast. Palin has been, of course, a Fox paid contributor since leaving the 2008 presidential campaign.
Now, the really fun pairing would have been to put Katie Couric and Sarah Palin on together.
Yeah.
So Katie could say, now, what are you reading these days?
What country are we in? Oh, I don't know, Katie. Wow.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian is the most overexposed celebrity. According to a new poll by Forbes magazine, 65% of respondents selected the reality star as being overexposed. Following her, Lindsay Lohan, Snooki, the Octomom, and Paris Hilton. And Kim Kardashian's two sisters, Kourtney and Khloe, are also in the top 10.
Paris Hilton's slipping on that list a little bit.
I know.
She
Look,
is.
I'm still trying to figure out why Kim Kardashian's famous to begin with, but when
She's famous for being famous.
yeah, but she's the one that had
She made a sex tape.
She had like rice thrown on her, didn't she? Or
Flower. She got
Flour.
flowered last week. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, totally spontaneous. I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah, right. No, I don't get it either.
And in sports, March Madness comes to a close on the men's side tonight. The NCAA tournament final between Kentucky and Kansas tips off at 9 Eastern. The Final Four matchups over the weekend were not without controversy. Riots broke out after Kentucky beat state rival Louisville 69-61, and Kansas topped Ohio State in a nail-biter 64-62.
Yeah, you know, I picked Kansas to win, so if they win tonight, I guess I'm going to go out and burn a car or two, you know, maybe.
Yeah.
Tip
I'll
over a
join
car, set it on fire. I mean, that's the way you do it these days. What idiots the students are down there.
Hey, it's this basketball.
They've
No.
won.
No.
Kentucky's won 5 or 7 national titles in basketball. Act like you've won it before.
Yeah.
If you go to the game, don't start burning
Just
stuff.
be like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean-
yeah, that's how we roll. What's
Yeah.
up?
Yeah,
We
right.
won.
Yeah, be proud of your team. Yeah, burn a car. God, Dan, thank you. So I wanted to talk, Eric, I wanted to start out talking a little bit about, I mean, it's great that the Congress is out of town because we can all sort of breathe easy. They're gone for 2 weeks, but the Supreme Court is still here, and the
God help
Supreme
us.
Court is up to trying to deal with this health care thing. A couple of points, and I'd love to get your comments on them. Number one, I think the main issue in front of this court should be the constitutionality of this law passed by the Congress, and I think just on that basis, it's a slam dunk. I mean, health care is so important to everybody.
Yes.
Everybody, at some point in their life, everybody's going to need health care. It's not like flood insurance. You know, maybe you'll get a flood, maybe you won't. Health care, everybody's going to need it, no doubt about it. And if a state can say, if you drive in this state, you have to have car insurance, all the more reason, I believe, the federal government can say, if you're part of this pool and we're going to pay for your health care, you got to get health care. Otherwise, you know, you're a freeloader and you go to the emergency room and we're going to have to pay for it. So I think on the constitutionality, there's no issue. But here's what gets me about this court, is this court is acting again. This is the most activist Supreme Court that we have ever seen in our history. This is a court that decided who was going to be the next president of the United States and took that issue in 2000 away from the American people, away from the people of Florida, and said, no, we 5 of us are going to decide George Bush is the president. And then you had Citizens United, where once again they said, no, we don't care if Congress says that, and has said forever, and many states, most states have said, corporations can't be owning politicians and can't be pumping so much money into political campaigns. This Supreme Court said, corporations are people, anything goes, they can pump in all the money they want. So now, on top of those two, they're really trying to rewrite this health care law, and I think people got to realize, I think this court is going way, way beyond its means. In the arguments last week, 2 things. Justice Scalia at one point said, well, you know, we could change this, or we could change that, or we could tinker with this, but if we did that, they might have a hard time getting 60 votes for that. I mean, that's not his job. He's not a legislative director. And then Anthony Kennedy at one point said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, you know, maybe we would have been better off just having single payer in the first place. Well, I agree with that, but that's not his job. His job is to look at the bill passed by Congress and say,
constitutional
or
not
down.
constitutional.
So I think there's a lot at play on here. And if they go against this health care law, then I think we can see that this court will be known forever as a rubber stamp Republican Roberts Court.
Oh, look,
what do you think?
I think they already are that. I mean, I wouldn't even wait for them to make a determination On this bill, I think Citizens United really in and of itself just did that right there. It's turned, as we know here in Washington, it's turned our, the entire way that we do business and that folks in politics do business on its head.
Totally.
And not in a good way. Not in a good way. Giving corporations so much power, so much influence.
So even Republicans, some now, are complaining about the super PACs and all the influence they have.
Oh,
well, guess what?
This is what they asked for.
Thanks to John Roberts and Clarence Thomas and Antonin.
Well, hey, I mean, as Mitt Romney says, corporations are people, my friend. Yeah. And, it's funny because this is what conservatives have railed against, verbally for 20 years or so, right? We don't want activist judges, and they blame that, squarely on Democrats. But the reality is that's gone full court the other direction, and it has been for quite a while. And really, so many of
full
them...
court, Supreme Court.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, so many of the issues that we see today are ultimately decided by the Supreme Court. And the fact that the arguments that I was hearing coming out of the Supreme Court justices were like, well, if we can force you to, if we uphold the individual mandates and force everyone to get health insurance, what's to stop us from forcing you to buy a cell phone? It's like, oh, come on. I mean, does anybody actually buy that as a legitimate kind of slippery slope argument?
And by the way, that came from the Chief Justice. The
Chief Justice himself. And the constitutional lawyers I've talked to, and I've talked to a couple of them, have all said that there's no, I was kind of asking, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, saying, well, is there any real legitimacy to these arguments? No, not really. And they use exactly the
it is the court trying to legislate.
Yes.
Exactly. And again,
and it's wrong.
As long as I can remember, that's what conservatives have always said we're wrong with judges, right?
Yeah.
Well, now we've got the most activist court we've ever seen, and they think it's great.
Well,
they think it's great because they're making decisions that they approve of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing more activist than deciding who's the president of the United States.
Yeah, that's about as activist as you get.
Hello.
But can I tell you, I think the Democrats have a responsibility here into why this has happened, and that's because we've had, for so many years, Republicans and conservatives have owned the dialect and the symbology of patriotism, of constitutionality. They had during the year-long debate over health care and whether or not to pass this bill, they had plenty of time to convince Americans that the individual mandate was somehow unconstitutional. 80-some-odd% of Americans, even people who support the bill, think it's unconstitutional, even though they don't know why. That, I think, does sway the court. And until progressives and Democrats actually learn to get up and start saying, hey, we are progressives and the Constitution is a progressive document and calls for progressive policy solutions, I think that those sorts of things do sway the court. We got to learn to fight in the courts.
And the other thing that people, we progressives, have to keep reminding people is, here's how we got here, okay? Democrats, liberals, progressives like me wanted single payer.
Yep.
And the conservatives said, no. You can't have single payer. We have to have the insurance companies in it. But we have to help the insurance companies. They can't be expected to cover everybody unless everybody's in. This is a conservative idea.
Heritage Foundation.
You have to have personal responsibility. So the Heritage Foundation says, here's the answer. We'll have an individual mandate.
Uh-huh.
They put it out there. Newt Gingrich supports it. Mitt Romney supports it. All the conservatives support it until President Obama says, okay, if that's what you want, I'll put it in the bill. And once he puts it in the bill, they said, communism, socialism, fascism. You know, I mean, here we are.
Yeah, and it's incredibly shocking now to see the court kind of even consider going along with that.
I know. It's outrageous.
It is outrageous.
866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number if you want to join the conversation. Eric, I want to take a break, but when I come back, I'm not going to let... We have a vast new audience now, right?
Yes,
because
absolutely.
on top of our big, huge radio audience, now we have this vast current TV audience.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And I want everybody to know that you once worked for Rick Perry.
Oh, God. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
I want to embarrass you. And then when I come back, so ask you, what do you think is going to happen in this Republican primary? Okay. And we'll take your calls on health care or whatever the hell else you want to talk about here. It's the Full Court Press, Bill Press and Eric Burns.
This is the Full Court Press, the Bill Press Show, live on your radio and on Current TV. on your radio, on TV. The Bill Press Show, new on Current TV.
And talking about Current TV, I'm going to be with Jennifer Granholm tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on the War Room. I'm very excited to join the good governor, talking politics this evening. Right now, we're talking politics, or about to, in studio with Eric Burns from Bullfight Strategies. So, Eric, we forgive you that you once worked for. I mean, after all, you lived in Texas and you needed a job, right?
And look, you've only forgiven me like 15 times thus far. But
And I have
15
to tell
more to
go. It's important.
I was a young pup.
It's important that the governor get his car washed regularly, and so it's nice that you were there to do it for
Pretty
him.
much what I did.
All right, but I think this it looks like this Republican primary is kind of winding down. And so more and more Republicans see, now Mitt Romney looks like going to be our nominee, and they're rushing to climb on board. Mm-hmm. So here's the latest on Friday. It is out in Wisconsin. Paul Ryan, if we can hear that, Peter.
My favorite Republican.
Yeah. My humble personal opinion as a guy from Janesville, what we need is Mitt Romney to be the next president of the United States of America.
My question to you is this what Mitt Romney needs to be identified with a guy that wants to destroy Medicare?
Well, I mean, certainly not if he has any hope of winning the general election.
Yeah.
But he's kind of in this box, right, where he's got this, Rick Santorum, Newt Gingrich, these just, I don't want to say insane, but these extreme right wingers that are really preventing him from getting across the finish line and have been dogging him left and right at every turn. And so, this has been the Mitt Romney that we've seen. He's got to kind of make a deal with the devil, so to speak. I mean, not that Paul Ryan's the devil, but the euphemism. I mean, he's got to make a deal with the folks that he doesn't believe in, which is his ultimate problem as a candidate, is kind of like who is Mitt Romney? Are you going to take an endorsement from a guy like Paul Ryan, who is really not who Mitt Romney is? And what is he going to try to pivot off that in the general election, which we can only assume he will? But he needs to do something because he hasn't been able to close a deal so far.
No, and he has staked his entire campaign on the economy is a disaster. Everything is going down. Well, now everything is coming up.
Yep.
And all he can say is, well, it didn't come up fast enough.
Yeah. Well, which is shocking when you consider how serious the collapse was. It's come up incredibly fast. Okay, I mean, when you look at, say, post Great Depression, when it took us 14 years to come out of that. This has been a remarkably fast recovery despite conventionalism, despite what we hear in the news.
Plus, it might have come up faster if the president had a little cooperation from Republicans in Congress.
Yes, if they weren't trying to blow up the budget and
Yeah, if they didn't just vote against everything he proposed to kind of kickstart the economy.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I'm telling you. Eric, it's fun to have you in studio. So stay around. We're going to be joined when we come back. Katie Paris, Vice President for Media Matters for America. Eric Burns, President of that organization at one time. And their latest crusades, and find out how they're doing in their war against Rush Limbaugh.
This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Full Court Press, the Bill Press Show, live on your radio and on Current TV.
How about it? Monday, April 2nd. Great to have you with us here on the Full Court Press this Monday morning as we talk about the big issues of the day. And very pleased to welcome to our conversation in studio now the Senior Vice President of a great organization, Media Matters for America, Katie Paris. Hi, Katie. Nice to see you.
It's wonderful to be here, and we always appreciate your support, Bill.
Well, I want to say again, and Eric, you had a lot to do with this at one time,
Yes.
That's right.
Media Matters for America, there are a couple of organizations when I say we, I'm talking about all of us.
That's right.
In progressive media. Rachel Maddow, Ed Schultz, Stephanie Miller, all of us, we depend on the work of Media Matters for America. Great job every day, and also Center for American Progress and Think Progress. So
well,
two organizations we particularly value.
We're proud to do it, and I think we all feel pretty lucky to have the jobs we do, and are so grateful for you all being out there using our stuff every day. So.
Damn right. Yeah, as long as I got this microphone, we're going to use it. And Eric, good to have you with us. So, Katie, let's talk about. Last time we talked was about Rush Limbaugh and his comments about Sandra Fluke and all of that, and Media Matters. And Color of Change, another organization leading the charge for sponsors to say, get off of this show. How's it going?
It's been a real group effort. And honestly, more than anything, Americans across the country that I've never met, and I don't think you've ever met, Eric, maybe you have out there. Lately.
I know all of them.
All of
no,
Eric's
really.
very popular.
Not really.
But, it's honestly, this is a case in which whose Twitter account is that, in wherever America, who have been really leading the way on this. But of course, also, Media Matters is working closely all the time with Now and Ultraviolet, a new organization focused on women's issues. Yeah, doing amazing work, holding this guy accountable. This wasn't the first time, I think, that Rush Limbaugh has said some things that I know would never be allowed in my household growing up. But this time, he really crossed the line, and Americans are speaking out, and American companies are too. So the story of Rush Limbaugh is that it was when we spoke a couple weeks ago, continues to be the story of Rush Limbaugh. We had Papa John's Pizza, certainly a variety I enjoy, dropped actually just in the last few days. So major companies.
But is he going to survive?
Well, we'll see. What we see our mission as here is really just educating these companies that are putting their advertising dollars behind his show and raising the question, saying, is this good for business? Is this kind of speech that's so disrespectful towards women that, your grandmama would never allow you to talk like that over the airwaves, and, just this kind of, it's a disservice. And so just raising the question, is this where your advertisers...
American people find it disgusting.
And so we're showing that it's bad for business, and American businesses are responding very strongly to that.
And if I can just add in, especially in the era of Citizens United, when corporations have just been given kind of like a blank check, literally, to advocate for whatever it is that they're in their best interests, to have folks like Katie and the gang at Media Matters just literally notifying these companies, because a lot of them don't realize that their advertising dollars are being spent on this kind of speech. They really don't know that they're just educating, saying, hey, are you aware that this is what your advertising dollars are going to subsidize? And
often they're not.
What can people do? What can our viewers do? What can our listeners do to make sure that their voices are heard?
That's right. Well, the most important thing is to make sure that when you are contacting these companies, it actually is an advertiser that is on the air or may be on the air.
Well, how do you find out? Is there a central website? I guess Media Matters. Right?
There is a central place to go. Media Matters. You can be in touch with us directly. There's so much traffic online about this. People are really coordinating and sharing information.
MediaMatters.org.
Well, that's right. MediaMatters.org, of course. And I think the important thing is we're really trying to help people out in terms of how they advocate on this to, really just raise awareness, thank advertisers who say, we don't think we're on the show. We're going to make sure we're not on the show. We hear a lot of that. People just say, thank you for raising this. And in that case, then we say thank you back.
One of the other issues that has been so much in the news lately is the case of Trayvon Martin in Florida. And within the last week, there was a huge effort online and in the media and really pumped up by Fox News to try to smear Trayvon Martin and to build up George Zimmerman as this good guy, nice guy, kind of just doing his job. And now we find out over the weekends stuff about this guy where he'd abused a police officer, he beat up his girlfriend, at least she claims. They had a restraining order. He was fired from one job because he was roughing up customers. And this again was a case where Fox just kind of jumped in without the facts.
Well,
I'm shocked.
Shocking, right?
Yeah, it's not shocking, and you almost wish we were shocked in a case like this, because what greater tragedy, right? The 17-year-old kid walking home from the store at night with Skittles and iced tea, right? Just going home at night, and somehow they've made him into the villain, and then we have these laws with silly names like Stand Your Ground. And so they're being elevated as, oh, this George Zimmerman, he was just standing his ground, and this young hoodlum, he had it coming. Where have we gotten in America that those are our values? This isn't a stand your ground law. This is a shoot first law. This is a kill at will law. This is resulting in actually in Florida. It's
That's
shown
what
that
we
there's
should
actually
start calling it. Kill at will. That's
exactly what it is.
Well, it's right, and I think we do a disservice by not accurately naming these and instead having these sort of whitewashed, Fox News approved brand names for what in fact is pretty dangerous.
They're good
policy.
at it. They're good at it. They name evil stuff. They give them really
the Patriot Act, the Clean Water Act.
Clear skies, right?
You can just go. I'm sorry.
Yeah, clear skies, right?
Clear skies. I mean, you can just go on and on and on. I mean, this is the gift of Frank Luntz. I think.
But on your point about the corporations, I mean, what a lot of people don't realize, as we mentioned a little bit earlier in the program today, so this Stand Your Ground law is a template that's been handed out to state legislators by this group called the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC. ALEC, which is a Koch brothers funded operation. It's another one of the Koch brothers things out there, and they come up with this legislation. And I think that what's really behind the Fox News and so much of this attempt to smear Trayvon Martin is the gun lobby is afraid that this will be, and I think it should be, used as an opportunity to really re-examine these Stand Your Ground laws. And they're afraid of that. And so ALEC and the Koch brothers and the NRA are out there, part of this effort to smear Trayvon Martin and to build up George Zimmerman to save the gun law.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, this is coming to your state if it's not already there. I believe there are 24, maybe 27 states. Actually, a very intrepid researcher, Matt Gertz, who we're all very proud of at Media Matters, and his team this week, they were the ones to uncover actually this connection between the NRA working with this group, this corporate-backed group that you've just described, ALEC, behind the scenes. They are rewriting our laws across the country, and
they're doing it. They've done it with healthcare. I mean, with all the 20 some odd
our voting rights,
healthcare, the voting rights, voting suppression acts that they're passing, requiring ID at polls, preventing registration in schools. I mean, we're seeing this kind of stuff spread across the country. It's not just this one issue. This is a critically important issue, but it's on every issue.
And this is a group people hadn't even heard of.
I know.
Really, until this week. So thank you for telling people about it.
Again, it's so important that Media Matters is out there putting this information out for people like us, and then we can put it out there, and American people know that this is BS, some of the stuff that you hear, and kind of what's behind it. This is sort of, bouncing around a lot of things because so much you're here I want to talk about.
Let's do it.
And gladly take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. So more to the frivolous, okay?
Okay.
Tomorrow we're going to see Sarah Palin in a new role, right?
Yes,
so because ABC scored by getting Katie Couric to agree to fill in on GMA as opposed to the Today Show where she was for years. The Today Show is going out to get Sarah Palin to come in as a co-host of the show tomorrow morning. And what have we sunk to?
Okay, so first of all, let me just say, as a woman working in politics, I want women to do well in the Democratic Party. I want women to do well in the Republican Party. But we're talking about a mainstream news show here, okay? And we're talking about her being put forth as a supposed, opposite in balance up against Katie Couric. I mean, honestly, when I heard about this, I thought it was an April Fool's joke. Yesterday was April 1st, okay?
Yeah.
But it's not, and it's a problem when Sarah Palin, who is someone who has a massive penchant for misinformation. This person does not have a close relationship with the truth when it comes to much of anything. I mean, this is the number one perpetrator of that death panels myth, right, in the healthcare bill. And that's not her most recent misinformation. I mean, it's on and on again about all kinds of policies and the President of the United States.
She's not a guest. She's actually
she's a host. But here's the good news for America. Okay, as we learned from her infamous interview with Katie Couric during the presidential campaign, she doesn't just read certain papers; she reads all of them.
Oh, that's true.
When she asks what papers she read, she reads all of them. So she's. I think she might surprise us.
So we know she's well informed.
So we know she's well informed.
Right. All right. Katie Paris and Eric Burns, Bill Press. It is the Full Court Press. MediaMatters.org is the website. Check them out every day. We don't start the day without doing so.
Amen.
Absolutely.
And then join in the fight, and we'll be right back. Take your calls at 866-55-PRESS.
Thanks, Bill.
This is the Bill Press Show. Heard around the country and seen on current TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Monday, April 2nd, in studio with us, Katie Parris from Media Matters and Eric Burns from Bullfight Strategies. And we'll take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. But first, I want to give you a little word of advice about and tell you about our good friends at Blinds.com. I mean, look, when you're shopping for new blinds, shades, shutters, or drapes, three things you're looking for: service, selection, and price. They rarely come together. Home improvement stores have okay prices but horrible service and lousy selection. The neighborhood boutique blind store might give you good selection, but they've got horrible prices and a lot of sales pressure. For designer blinds, shades, shutters, and drapes, there's really only one place to go that brings all three together, and that is Blinds.com. I can tell you from my own experience. Peter can tell you from his. Peter and I both went to Blinds.com. Peter got new blinds for his house. Carol and I have gotten some new drapes for our house. Great service. And they make it real easy, even for somebody who's not handy like me. They can show you how to transform any room in your house in about 20 minutes and do it yourself. They'll also give you free color samples, free shipping, and no sales tax in most states. So I recommend you go to Blinds.com for prices that absolutely crush home improvement store prices for blinds, shades, shutters, or drapes. That's Blinds.com, Blinds.com, Blinds, B-L-I-N-D-S, simply, .com. Let's say hello, guys, if we can, to Richard from Chicago. Hi, Richard. Good morning.
Hey, Richard.
Good morning. I wanted Katie to know that I heard the thoughts on WCPT. I'm a conservative, and I called WLS, about Rush Limbaugh, and I've heard that he has apologized or authored an apology. I wanted to know if he used the B word to Miss Fluck. Did he call her the B word? Do you know?
No, he called her a slut and a prostitute, not the B word.
Okay.
And a lot of other words over a lot of other hours.
Yeah.
Okay, because Katie, ABC is running a program called Good Christian Bees, and I'd like that. I mean, that's just abhorrent to me to hear a network denigrating an entire religion on national television.
Good Christian what?
Good Christian, bee, which rhymes with stitches.
ABC?
Yeah, ABC is running a program called GBC.
Oh,
which is,
I didn't know what it stood for. GBC.
I was talking about boycott. That's horrifying.
But you know what, Richard, I appreciate the call. I didn't know anything about
it's
the
off
program.
my radar. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, it does look like it's out there on ABC. Yeah, GCB, formerly titled Good Christian. Good Christian rhymes with stitches, and then to save face, they retitled it Good Christian Bells, BELLES.
Well, that
didn't work.
What is it called now?
GCB. Just GCB.
Good Christian Bells?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just GCB, so you could either call it Bells or...
there's no monopoly on bad taste, and I have to say, if ABC is running that program, I mean, shame on them. That's outrageous, too. I mean, come on.
Right. Although I think this does raise an important point. I mean, Rush Limbaugh is not an entertainer. He's really a force within the conservative movement, someone who's taken very seriously in conservative politics and Republican politics. He's been put up on a pedestal for years by leaders of the Republican Party, seen as a leader of the conservative movement. And
he's the head of the Republican Party.
Right. And so we're talking about not just name calling, but hours and hours of attacking this young woman just because he disagreed with her because she spoke before some members of Congress explaining why some of her classmates would benefit, health benefit wise from prescription birth control. And he disagreed with her. And so not only called her names and went after her for hours and hours, but even said she should post sex tapes online so we all could watch.
Yeah, disgusting.
No, I mean, I can't speak to the GCB, and it sounds like it's in very poor taste just from what we heard from the caller, and I don't know because I haven't seen it. But in terms of Rush Limbaugh, who I have quite a bit of experience dealing with, as does Katie, look, this is a long and illustrious history that Rush Limbaugh has, and he finally has gotten himself into a situation where he's getting some comeuppance for what frankly he's deserved for a very, very long time, and that's some accountability. To actually be faced with, the repercussions of what he says as the titular head of the Republican Party. There's not a Republican in this country that can cross Rush Limbaugh, with the exception of maybe John McCain, and get away with it without coming back on bended knee and apologizing.
Look what happened to Michael Steele a couple of years ago.
He apologized.
Phil Gingrey. I mean, you can just go down the list.
One point I want to make is that Frank Rich, great writer, great columnist, in this month's New York Magazine, has an article about the war on women. And he points out that Republicans like to say, when Rush came out with his comments, right?
Yeah.
People said, well, this is just Rush, this is just Rush, this is Rush.
Right.
And as Frank points out, it's not, this war on women is not just Rush.
No.
The more dangerous stuff is being done by people right down here, 6 blocks down the street in the United States Congress with all of these bills, like the Blunt Amendment, that would have denied, allowed any employer to deny any part of health care they just didn't happen to agree with. And by all these people in state legislatures around the country, you know, that's the real war on women. So to a certain extent, you know,
it's a war on all of us, too. I mean, you know, this is government saying, you know, no, parents, you shouldn't be in charge of when you're going to start a family or how many kids you want to have. No, that should be up to your boss. That should be up to a big corporation, you know, instead of you. And these are conservatives making this case. Yeah.
They long ago abandoned any conservative principles. Hey, guys, it's so much fun having you in the studio. Katie Paris, first time in the studio. Thank you so much. Come back often. In fact, we'd like to get you in. I mean, we need to know what Media Matters is up to at least once a week. Okay?
If you insist.
Is that a deal?
I'd love to.
And Eric Burns, you're welcome anytime.
All right.
All right. And I'll be back with, I get the last word always, a quick parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.